Okay, can you guys see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Cool. So I'm not entirely sure if all my members are here yet, but we'll just get started. So for this week, we are talking about fast fashion and basically just an overview of what fast fashion is. Sorry, I'm not sure if she's here, so I can't.
Yeah, I'm here. Okay, so I'm gonna get started. So what is fast fashion? The definition for fast fashion is fast fashion describes low priced but stylish clothing that moves quickly from design to retail stores to meet trends with new collections being introduced continuously. And it's also a design, manufacturing, and marketing method focused on rapidly producing high volumes of clothing. There are three main components from the consumer's perspective, which are cheap, trendy, and disposable. So let's understand fast fashion. The fashion industry up until the mid-20th century ran on 4 seasons a year, which are fall, winter, spring, and summer. Designers would work many months ahead to plan for each season and predict the styles they believe customers will want. Why fast fashion is born for business? So there are two reasons that I thought are very interesting. The first one is the constant introduction of new products encourages customers to visit stores more often, which means they end up making more purchases. And the other one is by replicating streetwear and fashion week trends as they appear in real time. Those companies can create new desirable styles weekly, if not daily.
So how did fast fashion start? So there are two things that happened that caused fast fashion to start. The first is that famous clothing companies started trends so they could sell more clothes. What a trend is, for those who aren't sure, a trend is something that is popular at a certain time. For example, if right now a trend is a blue shirt, then that means everyone would want to wear blue shirts, and it means that blue shirts are seen as like the best clothing right now. So companies use things like marketing or advertisements to make people want to wear whatever clothing the current trend is. Once something is a trend, then the stores can easily sell it because a lot of people want to buy it. And last thing to know about trends is that they change all the time. So the second way that fast fashion started is that clothing companies discovered how to make clothing very quickly and very cheaply. They do that by taking a really big amount of one material and using machines to make the clothing very quickly. So because clothing companies care about making money, what fast fashion actually became is clothing companies would find a way to make a certain clothing very desirable and make it high demand, and then they would produce a lot of it at once so they could sell it and make more money. So that's how fast fashion started.
Okay, so here's basically a list of the main or most popular fast fashion stores. Some of the stores include Shein, Zara, H&M, Forever 21, Victoria's Secret, Urban Outfitters, and you can read them on. So on the right, there's like two pictures, as you guys can see. The bottom one, it is a final sale of 50% clothing. So they have like racks of clothing, and whichever clothing, how should I word it? Like whichever clothing aren't sold, they would throw it away. So so the most popular fast fashion store is called Shein. They're basically the face of fast fashion. They don't have any public stores in person since they reserved to online. They sell stuff like clothing, shoes, jewelry, makeup, and basically anything you can think of. Sometimes even like school supplies. So they have incredibly cheap prices, and almost every day they have a discount. Because of the cheap prices, they tend to attract more customers and people with financial problems. They have multiple influencers to promote their brand, and many of them are doing $700 worth of hauls or just spending a lot of money on these clothing brands, even though they know that it's not good for the environment. And what also makes them really popular is they're always on top of trends and they know what the customer wants, therefore they gain more customers, of course. And just like I previously mentioned, they have a lot of discounts always on sale. As you can see on the right of the slide, they have a sale of 60% off, and they also have like $30 gift cards, $10, $5. And basically this is a marketing strategy to get more customers.
So, fast fashion is bad because fast fashion creates a lot of waste. That is, as it is you well, as it is the mass production of current fashion wear, it accounts for 10% of all the carbon emissions in the world and is the second largest industry when it comes to pollution. The clothes created are non-renewable and can poison the ecosystem. Uh, should I say this part too?
I think Alan is stuck on like the waiting room. Yeah,
Wait, what?
so he's here. I'm not entirely sure if he can get on time then. Alan, we're doing your part right now.
Why fast fashion is bad, part 2. Fast fashion also exploit their overseas workers to maximize profits. Fast fashion is bad for workers, especially young and underage women. These women work long hours with minimal pay, and they work in unsafe working conditions. Many people start working underage because they need a way to support themselves. Not only do they get paid low wages, but they also are exposed to dangerous working conditions without any benefits or protection.
Okay, so slow fashion. Slow fashion is, sorry. Slow fashion is basically when companies will, like, is a concept where you describe the opposite of fast fashion, and it's part of the slow movement, which advocates for manufacturing for, intersect with people, environment, and animals. It encompasses an awareness and an approach to fashion that considers the processes and resources required to make clothing, and it advocates for better quality garments that will last longer, values fair treatment of people, animals, and the planet along the way. So realistically, slow fashion and sustainable or ethical fashion have a lot of similarities. They're sister movements because they both share the general guideline, and the main difference is that slow fashion focuses on reducing consumption and production. So it basically, slow fashion aims to ask the customers to take a step back and decide if we actually need that new piece of clothing or if we can go into our closet and find the same one. It also encourages people to go vintage and get secondhand clothing, and it's becoming more popular as more people embrace slow fashion. So slow fashion stores, these stores are known for high prices, but this is because they pay their workers better. And the two main things that slow fashion stores embody are clean clothing and ethical clothing. So it supports artisans, it gives back to the community, and it's well made. The most notable brand is Patagonia, and this is based in California. It has organic cotton, environmental sustainability, and it also gives back to the community by committing to recycled materials and organic cotton. The size range is also super big, from extra, extra small to 3XL. And then, yeah.
Okay, how do we fix fast fashion? In America, people have become so used to buying new clothes constantly that it has become a problem. Fast fashion is a terrible polluter and exploits workers in other countries by making them work long hours in harsh conditions. To overcome this problem, there are a few solutions. First, we should cherish our current clothes and think more before buying new clothes. Second, we should think about what brand we are buying and if they endorse ethical production. And last, we should always buy quality clothes that can last longer.
Okay, thank you all.
Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, feel free to put it in the chat.
Okay, history will begin soon. We can actually take a 4-minute break right now while we wait for the history teachers to come.
Here we are. We're in, boys.
Yeah, everyone feel free to type any question in the chat about the pop culture class we just did. And you can take 2 more minute break before we start the history class. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, hello everyone. So welcome to this week's history class. And this week we're going to be talking about some stories from the Zhou Dynasty and also the Han Dynasty for the third lesson in the Ancient China series. So again, this is our teaching plan. Before this unit, we have covered Bronze Age and the Greece and Rome period. So make sure to check out our YouTube channel if you're interested in those lessons. So here is, again, a brief timeline of ancient China here. Today we are covering the Han Dynasty from 202 to 220 AD. And we will begin with some stories from the Zhou Dynasty. Let me see.
All right, so one of the biggest stories of this dynasty was entertaining the concubine, which is one of the emperor's wives, with beacon fire. And this story takes place at the end of the West Zhou, and the last king of Zhou was Yu. And during that time, there was a lot of earthquakes, there was a lot of famines. Basically, the people believed that the emperor had lost the mandate of heaven. But Yu was an ignorant king, and he didn't really want to save the Zhou dynasty from danger, he didn't want to work hard either. So he assigned ruthless officials that exploited the people and failed to attack barbarian tribes. And it was at this moment that Yu got to know a beauty called Bal. And Yu was very shocked when he saw Bal because he loved her beauty very much. And basically he gave her a lot of money and a lot of things, but she would never smile. But then a courtier came up with the idea, use the beacon fire. Next slide. Now, beacon fires are originally an emergency military alarm signal. So when enemies evaded, people would know. Basically, you had adjacent towers that would light up one by one. And so local lords would know to fight the incoming barbarians. However, this time when you lit the beacon fire, all the lords came to you as you expected, but they didn't see any enemies. And when you explained that it was all for a ball, they understood that the beacon fires were fake and there wasn't any enemy at all. And so eventually, when the Wenrong tribe attacked and broke through the capital, the barbarians, when the beacon fires were lit, no lords came to protect the king. And so Yu was killed. All right, next
Someone
slide.
asked in the chat the meaning of exhaustion. Yeah, so it is basically to be tired. Or in this case, I think it is, let me see. Yes, it was said the successive years of drought have caused people to suffer from hunger and cold, and the social unrest and exhaustion of natural strength added to those instability. Here, exhaustion means it's basically used up, like they are out of national strength. It's kind of like when you're exhausted, you are out of strength. Here it means the whole country is exhausted. They are out of power as a country. And I think Ruo Chong is here, so you can continue.
Okay, so the second story is Ta Yongho's being jabbed with an awl. So in ancient China, during the Han Dynasty, there was a famous politician called Sun Jing, who studied hard from day to night. However, when he studied for too long, he started to doze off, which means he started to he started to fall asleep, which was bad for studying because if he falls into sleep, he will not be able to study. And to solve this problem, he found a rope and tied one end of it to the house beam, and which is house beam means kind of the the wood on your house that you can hold on. And he found a rope. He found a rope and tied one end on to the house beam and the other end of it to his own hair. So as a result, every time he feels sleepy and lowers his head, the rope will pull his hair and keep him awake. There, so this will enable him to study for extended times. And there was another famous philosopher called Su Qing, who did a similar thing. Before Su Qing start studying, he will always prepare an awl, which is a small pointed tool for piercing holes. Uh, it is pretty much you can understand it like a knife to make you feel painful. He'll prepare an awl near his leg, and every time he feels tired and wanted to sleep, he will jab his leg to force himself awake. So later generations derived the idiom, "太用 house beam, jab with an awl," from the story of these two philosophers, from these two guys, which is used to describe the spirit of studying hard. So although people today will not do something so extreme, um, we still use this as an exaggerated description to praise one's spirit of hard working. And then the third story is Splendid Mount and Running River. So during the spring and autumn period, there was a man whose name was Yu Boya. Yu Boya was a famous music master at that time, having a good command of the temperament and superb skills in playing the music instrument. So temperament means a feeling or an impression, which is usually given by a person or an environment. And Riboya was bright and eager to learn when he was young. He had formally acknowledged several experts as his teachers, and his skills in playing the musical instrument had already reached a fairly high level. But he still felt that he couldn't express well the various things which had deeply impressed him. Knowing what was in his mind, his teacher took him to the Ponglai Island, a fabled abode of immortals on the East China Sea by boat. So fabled means fictional, unreal. It is like the stories you often heard, but they aren't real. And the boat means a place to live. And on the island, on the Penglai Island, his teacher allowed him to enjoy the natural scenarios and listen to the roaring of the great waves. Looking into distance, Boya saw the waves were turbulent and that the white breakers leapt skywards. Seabirds were circling in the air and their crying was very pleasant to the ear. Trees were green and intriguing, feeling well up in his mind, as if he had heard the harmonious and charming music of nature. He couldn't help taking his musical instrument and playing it. He followed his inclinations while he was playing, and incorporated the beautiful nature with his music, thus reaching a realm of thought he had never experienced before. Seeing this, his teacher said to him, "You have mastered the art of playing." So there are some vocabularies like scenario. Scenario means normally means a script. So here it means a theme or situation. And then intriguing. Intriguing means fascinating or attractive, interesting. And harmonious means peaceful, and it matches with the others, giving a sense of unity. And then inclination, wait a minute. And then inclination means like what someone's preference to do something, what someone wants to do. And there's another word which is realm. Um, which basically means like a level or an abstract level in this passage. Next slide, please. Okay, so once on the 15th day of the 8th lunar month, Boya was boating for sightseeing. The moon was bright and the cool breeze was blowing gently. With myriads of thoughts welling up in his mind, he began to play the musical instrument. The melodious music became more and more beautiful. When a man on the bank shouted "Bravo!" Hearing the shouting, Boya came out of the boat and saw a woodcutter standing on the bank. He knew that this man was keenly appreciative of his talents. Because he understood his music, he immediately invited the woodcutter to his boat and full of zest, he played the musical instrument for him. When Boya played a piece of music, um, eulogizing the high mountains, the woodcutter said, "Wonderful. The melody is as magnificent and dignified as mountain high, which reaches to the sky." When he played a piece of music depicting the turbulent waves, the woodcutter said, "Wonderful. The melody is as vast and mighty as the great rivers." Boya was excited and said, "Bosom friend, you are really my bosom friend." That woodcutter was Zhong Ziqi. Since then, they became very good friends. This story appeared in the works of Liezi. From this story, people have derived the set phrase "high mountain and running water" to refer to understanding and appreciative friends. This set phrase this phrase is also used to refer to melodious music. So there are some words, as usual, I'm gonna explain, like with myriads of thoughts. Myriads means a huge amount of thoughts. Like myriads means a huge amount. So myriads of thoughts means huge amount of thoughts. And then melodious basically means it is very pleasant to your ear. Um, and then keenly, this man was keenly appreciative. Keenly means like you really keenly appreciative means you feel appreciative of someone's skills from your heart. So you are very true-hearted. And then um, and then a piece of music eulogizing the high mountains means um, eulogizing the mountain means like to it's very similar to depict or to praise the mountain. And then the next word dignified, which is also mean praised or like very very serious. I mean, I guess. And depicting means like to create a picture, either by saying something or painting something. And mighty means it simply means great in here. And bosom friend, it usually means like your breast or your hug, but in this passage, um, it uses a deeper meaning, like your heart is in your breast, so bosom friend means the friend that is true-hearted, that understands you the best. um so I see someone asking what is the meaning of melodious. So melodious means um like it is very comfortable to listen to the music, and it has some sort of melody. So it is melodious. And the fourth story is attempt to make up the number. During the Warring States period, the king of the state of Qi was very fond of listening to Yu ensembles. He often got together 300 Yu players to form a grand music. The king treated his musician very well, so a man named Nan Guo um, he heard about that and he managed to become a member of the band, even though he wasn't good at playing the instrument at all. Whenever the band played for the king, Nanguo just stood in the line and pretended to play. Nobody realized he was making no sound at all. As a result, he enjoyed treatment just as the other musicians did. When the king died, his son became the new king who also liked the music played on the yu. However, he preferred solos. So he ordered the musicians to play the yu one by one. Because he didn't know how to play, Nanguo had to run out of the palace. The idiom "attend to make up the number" is used to mock someone who passes for a specialist. You can also hear people saying it about themselves to show their modesty. So in this passage, um, first we need to see we need to look at ensembles. Ensemble means a lot of people playing instruments together to create a sort of harmonious orchestra or concert. Um, and then um, and then the word solo means you play by yourself. Like there's only one person there. Uh, and and then we can talk about the Han Dynasty.
Okay, so this is a map of the Han Dynasty during its greatest extent. And this is a overview of the Han Dynasty. Han is the dynasty after the short-lived Qin Dynasty. It has three parts: the West Han, Xin, and East Han. It was founded by Liu Bang, later the Gaozu emperor, who led the revolt against the repressive policies of the short-lived Qin Dynasty. He then established the Han's capital at Chang'an, which is present-day Xi'an in Shanxi province. This was called the West Han. At 9C, Wang Mang attempted to establish the Xin Dynasty. And after his reign, the Han's capital moved to Luoyang, which is in present-day Henan province, and this was called the East Han. Does anybody else want to do this part? Okay, so one of the China's great imperial dynasties was the Han Dynasty, who ruled for more than 400 years, from 206 AD BC to AD 220, with only a brief interruption. During this period, Chinese made outstanding artistic, literary, and scientific and technological advances. Chinese culture became firmly established. It was founded by Liu Bang, who later was known as the Gaozu Emperor. He was a man of lower class birth who successfully overthrew the Qin dynasty. They copied the highly centralized Qin government structure, dividing the country into many administrative areas, ruled by officials appointed by the central government. One of the main contributions of the Han Dynasty was development of the paid civil service, in which promotion, which is increase in rank or position, was based primarily on merit, which was good qualities. Under the Han, Confucianism was made the official state doctrine, and it remained so until the end of the Chinese Empire. The Han lasted longer than any other Chinese dynasty. The first part of Han rule from 206 BC to AD 9 is called the Western Han period because the capital was located in the western part of the empire, in the city of Chang'an. This part of the dynasty is also called the early Han period. During this period, the Han waged costly military campaigns, which is basically military campaigns. Like basically, they it's kind of like kind of like a war. Basically, they start an attack on somebody to defend against invasions by the Xiongnu, which is the people from the north. The Han also faced a threat from the families of the empress, who wanted to take power for themselves. And indeed, in 89, Wang Mang, a nephew of the empress, briefly seized control of the empire, which was the Xin dynasty period. The Han then took back the throne in 1825 and ruled for another 200 years. The second part of Han rule is known as the Eastern Han period because the capital was moved eastward to the city of Luoyang. It is also called the Later Han period. During this period, the Han successfully conquered territories that they had earlier lost to invaders. And in 80 to 20, internal power struggles brought an end to the dynasty. Promoting Chinese culture was extremely important to the Han leaders, and consequently, literature, performing, and visual arts all thrived under their rule. Poetry was supported, and a new genre, the Fu, a combination of rhyme and prose, began to develop. Han scholars wrote many works of history, philosophy, and politics. They were also great record keepers. A Han government department collected descriptions of the musics of the day, including the instruments and songs that were played, as well as the techniques that were used. Several forms of plucked string instruments were in use. Dance was part of a public ceremony and private entertainment. In drama, performers acted out the heroic deeds of China's great warriors. During this period, artists created the first major stone tomb sculpture and also made lifelike clay figurines of people and animals. The interior walls of important buildings were painted with portraits and scenes from history. Bronze vessels were made both for rituals and for household use. Artisans working during the Han refined lacquerware, for which ancient China became known. Many layers of lacquer, which is a liquid that dries to form a coating for wood and metal, were applied to decorative and everyday objects made of clay or wood. Some lacquerware was inlaid with jade or ivory. The weaving of rich silks became a major industry and source of trade. During this dynasty, China made many advancements in science, mathematics, and technology that were unknown in the Western world. Inventions of the period included paper, water clocks, sundials, logs for controlling water levels in streams, seismograph for measuring the strength of earthquakes, and compasses. The Han people divided the day to 10 and later 12 parts. They also worked on a calendar of moon cycles. It remained in use until 1912. And somebody asked in the chat the meaning of thrived. So thrive just means it did really well. So basically, if something is thriving, that means it's doing well, it's growing bigger and getting better. Okay, whose slide was this one?
That's mine. I can go. Okay, I'll be briefly telling you about the origins of the Chinese shadow puppets because there's a very interesting myth behind it. Shadow puppetry, to start off, is a form of theater where the silhouettes or shadows of figures on a cloth screen are illuminated from behind and originated during the Han Dynasty. The picture on the slide is a picture of shadow puppets. So the most popular myth about its origin starts with the death of Emperor Wu's favorite concubine, which made him heartbroken and unable to care for his kingdom's needs. As his wisest advisor pondered the best way to raise his spirits, he passed by some children playing with dolls under the sun. Inspired by shadows the dolls cast, he made his own doll that looked like the late empress. And that night, the advisor invited the emperor to the courtyard for a special performance and hid behind a curtain with the doll and a candle. When the performance began, the emperor was entranced by the shadow puppet and the stories it told, reviving his spirits and allowing him to rule for many more years. And that's it.
Whose slide is this one?
This is mine. The origins of the Silk Road. During the Han Dynasty in 130 BC, the Silk Road was formally opened up so trade could happen with Greece. Luxury items that were traded include silk, cotton, tea, and wool, which were sold to rich European customers. Most of the time, the goods traveled further than the merchants themselves because they normally only traveled between two towns and sold their goods to the highest bidder of the town. The Silk Road started in Xi'an, and ended up sometimes in India, Rome, or Egypt. Why was this so important? The Silk Road had a huge economic impact because many people devoted their lives into becoming merchants, which created many jobs. Also, many previous small trading cities became large, rich cities because they received money from offering hospitality and food for these merchants. Luxury goods were not the only thing being traded in the Silk Road, as many ideas such as Buddhism were being spread. Many people who lived close to the Silk Road converted to Buddhism as they found the moral and ethical teachings appealing.
Whose slide is this one? I think the person may not be here. So you mentioned paper. Before the invention of paper, people used other materials for writing, such as bamboo, wooden slips, bones, etc. But because, or etc. But because of their bulk and weight, it requires a lot of physical strength for carrying. Hemp fiber and silk were used to make paper too. However, they were too expensive. And there's a story behind the Chinese idiom called a Chinese idiom describing a learned man. It concerns a scholar named Hui Shi who lived during the Warring States period. He needed 5 cars to carry his books when he traveled around teaching. Books at the time were made of wood or bamboo slips, so they were heavy and occupied lots of space. Reading at the time needed not only brain work, but also physical strength. And so do writing, because you have to carve out the characters. During the Eastern Han Dynasty, eunuch named Cai Lun was credited with creating the paper by crushing and combining tree bark, hemp, linen rags, and scrap from fishing nets, and then treating the mixture with lye to break it down into finer fibers. These raw materials could be easily found at much lower cost, so large quantities of paper could be produced. The convenient material helped with the spread of literacy and literature. The making technique was exported to Korea in 384, and Korean monk then took this skill with him to Japan in 610.
So fireworks were originally developed in the 2nd century BC in Liuyang, China. And basically how it was discovered was that the Chinese accidentally threw bamboo stalks into the fire and it made a large explosion. But these fireworks were originally used off to ward evil spirits instead of celebration because they made such a big explosion. But later, during the 1600s to 1900 AD, a Chinese alchemist made gunpowder, which was later poured into these bamboo sticks to make real fireworks. And these fireworks were eventually used by the Europeans in the 13th century to celebrate religious festivals, such as like Christianity or Buddhism or religions like those. And later, early US settlers also brought fireworks with them to the New World, which is the Americas, where we live in now. And they were used in the first Independence Day, which is when the United States declared independence from Britain. And some major holidays that use fireworks today are Chinese New Year, the 4th of July, the Festival of Lights in India, and Christmas.
Okay, I think that is the last slide. Thank you for viewing. And next up is science. Sorry, we went a bit over time this time. If you have any questions, make sure to put them into the chat. We will answer them.
Thank you, History Group, and anyone can put a question for history in the chat, and they will enter in the chat. And we'll have physics next.
All right, let me share screen. Okay. Can you guys see my screen? Oops. Hello, can you see my screen?
Yes.
1 sec, let me optimize for video clip. It's weird. Okay, it's fine. Okay, so so today we'll be going over some physics for scalars and vectors. My name is Kyle, and I think.
And yeah, my name is Naomi.
So here's some background on scalars and vectors. There are a lot of different mathematical quantities used in physics. Examples of these include acceleration, velocity, speed, force, work, and power. So you don't actually have to like understand these, you just need to know they exist. Today we'll be going over velocity, speed, velocity and speed. And these different quantities are often described as either scalar or vector quantities. Below, we will discuss what these words mean, as well as some like basic vector math, very, very basic vector math. So what is a scalar? A scalar is a quantity that is fully described by magnitude only. So for example, like 5 feet long or like 5 miles per hour, and it's described by a single number and like a unit. So some examples are like speed, volume, mass, temperature, power, energy, and time. So speed is measured by like meters per second or miles per hour. Volume is measured by like by meters cubed. Mass is by like kg. Temperature is by like Fahrenheit or Celsius. Power is by joules, and energy. Power is by joules and energy is by joules, and time is just like is just seconds. So what's a vector? A vector is a quantity that has both a magnitude and a direction. So vector quantities are very important to study of motion. So you need to know how fast a object is going, like 5 miles per hour or like 5 meters per second. And some examples include like force, velocity, acceleration, displacement, and momentum. So for example, like displacement means like, oh, I move like a curved path, like I go up like that. So the displacement is, so let me show you. Yeah. If I like go like here in this direction, here's my path of motion. Oh, where's my thing go? Here's my path of motion. So the actual like, displacement is the distance from here to here. So you can go like, ooh, like that, but it'll still be constant. So what's the difference between a scalar and a vector? A vector quantity has a direction and a magnitude, while a scalar has only a magnitude. So you can tell a quantity is a vector by whether or not it has associated direction with it. So like if you move upwards 5 miles per hour, that's a vector. If you move upwards, that's only a direction. If you move if you move out like if you just say like, oh, I move like 5 meters, then that's just a scalar.
All right, so what is the difference between a scalar and a vector? So like as Kyle mentioned earlier, speed is a scalar quantity, but velocity is a vector that specifies both a direction as well as a magnitude. So for speed, speed is the magnitude of velocity. So a car that has a velocity of 40 miles per hour east, that would be a vector because it provides us both a magnitude of 40 miles per hour and a direction of going east, right? Next slide, please. So how do we draw a vector and show it in physics? So a vector is drawn as an arrow with a head and a tail. So the magnitude of the vector is often described by the length of the arrow. So we want to draw it in proportion to whatever measurement we are going to put it down as. And the arrow points in the direction of the vector. So yeah, that's how you draw a vector. Next slide, please. Okay, so I guess we have time. So here are some example questions, and we want to, I guess, ask you, is this a scalar or a vector?
So the first one is a football player is running 10 miles per hour an hour towards the end zone. Is that a scalar or a vector? You can drop your answers in the chat or like unmute and say it. Stop. Yeah, so in this case, the guy will be like running this way. So this is our dude. Draw his body too. So he's running in this direction at 10 miles per hour. You guys have any ideas?
We'll give you guys 20 seconds if you want to put it in the chat or unmute yourself. That would be even better. So
If you guys aren't sure, feel free. If you guys aren't sure, you can just like drop a guess in the chat. Okay, I think we have some guesses. Oh. I guess we don't have any guesses. Vector. Exactly, it's a vector. So in this case, we both have a magnitude, which is 10 miles per hour, and direction, which is to the right east. Oops. Wait, why did I stop my screen share? Sorry. Yeah. Next slide. So this is a vector because it represents both a magnitude and a direction. Next one is the volume of a box at the west side of the building is 10 cubic feet. So it's like kind of small, but you get the idea. So it's just like the area of this side. Oh, this box. Okay, yeah. So there's a box right here. So try and figure out like the volume of this. Is that a scalar or a vector? Drop your guesses again in the chat. You guys have any answers or guesses? I give you guys like 10 more seconds and I'll just reveal it. Yeah, like Naomi said, if you're not sure, scalar, yep. Apakisha, sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, that's exactly right. Now this is a scalar because it has like a magnitude but not a direction. Next.
All right, so question 3, the car accelerated north at a rate of 4 meters per second squared. So what do you guys think this is? Scalar? Vector? Give me your best shot.
I think we have an answer in the chat. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ranju, Apakisha, sorry if I pronounced your name wrong again. That's exactly right. Okay, next. Okay, next one.
Yeah, just click.
We have one more
Click on
question.
the screen.
The vector, because we both know the direction and the magnitude.
And our last question, Sam was traveling 5 miles per hour at an unknown direction. Kyle, got it? What have you got?
Vector.
That's not quite right because it says it's an unknown direction. So a vector has both a magnitude and a direction.
Trick
Yeah, it's a bit
question.
Scalar, yeah, exactly. It's a scalar. Cool. Let's go on to the next slide.
Alrighty, so here's some interesting facts about scalars and vectors. So vectors are unit vectors are vectors that only have a magnitude of 1, and they are usually used to define direction. The credit for inventing vectors is given to the Irish physicist William Rowan Hamilton. And vectors and scalars are pretty important in many fields of math and science. And I'd say here in physics, it's the very basis of literally understanding everything about forces. And yeah, this is just, you need to know this and understand how vectors work and how we can use them in physics later on. Vectors can also be defined in two-dimensional or three-dimensional space, but that is a little more complex, and we might go over that in the future. And vector graphics are sometimes used in computers because they can be scaled to a larger size without losing any image quality. I think it's usually proportion, I think. Yeah, next slide.
Yeah, so I think this one's like pretty interesting because these kind of graphics are like used a lot in like web dev, and it basically expresses like shapes in the form of like equations. So it fully expresses all the shapes in the form of equations, and then like so you can like scale it up and down without losing any quality. So okay, I think we'll be showing a short video about this.
Vectors and scalars. Scalars, physical quantities which can be completely specified by 1. A number which represents the magnitude of the quantity. 2. An appropriate unit, are called scalars. Scalar quantities can be added, subtracted, multiplied, and divided by usual algebraic laws. Its examples include mass, distance, speed, density, volume, time, temperature, entropy, energy, charge, work, potential, etc. Vectors. Physical quantities which can be completely specified by 1. A number which represents the magnitude of the quantity. 2. An appropriate unit. 3. A specific direction are called vectors. This means a vector is a representation of both a quantity and a direction at the same time. Its examples includes displacement, force, velocity, acceleration, and momentum. Representation of a vector. A straight line parallel to the direction of the given vector is used to represent it. Length of the line on a certain scale specifies the magnitude of the vector. An arrowhead is put at one end of the line to indicate the direction of the given vector. Unit vector. A vector whose magnitude is 1 and directed along the direction of a given vector is called the unit vector of the given vector. A unit vector is usually denoted by a letter with a cap over it. For example, if r is the given vector, then r hat will be the unit vector in the direction of r, such that r equals r hat times norm of r, or r hat equals r divided by norm r. Unit vector equals vector divided by magnitude of the vector. Equal vectors. Two vectors having same directions, magnitude, and unit are called equal vectors. Zero or null vector. A vector having 0 magnitude and whose initial and terminal points are same is called a null vector. It is usually denoted by O. The difference of two equal vectors, same vector, is represented by a null vector. Free vector. A vector which can be displaced parallel to itself and applied at any point is known as a free vector. It can be specified by giving its magnitude and any two of the angles between the vector and the coordinate axis. In 3D, it is determined by the three projections on x, y, z axes. Position vector. Position vector is the vector which represents the position of a point in a space with respect to the origin, O. It also represents the distance and direction of the points from the origin. Resolution of a vector. Splitting up a single vector into its rectangular components is called the resolution of a vector. The rectangular components of a vector has to make an angle of 90 degrees with each other. There's another type of vector that you have seen but may not know about. Did you know all the graphics you are currently seeing in this animation are also called vectors? Vector graphics is a creation of digital images through a sequence of commands or mathematical statements that place lines and shapes in a given two-dimensional or three-dimensional space. The amazing thing about this graphic is no matter how many times you zoom into it, the quality will still be perfect and not pixelated.
Okay, so we'll be doing a short exercise in this video. So I think all of you should be able to annotate on my screen. I think I'm not sure if you guys are allowed to, but I'm gonna ask like the host. Are participants allowed to like annotate on the screen?
Wait, can you repeat?
Are participants allowed to annotate on the screen? Like, are they allowed to like draw stuff on the screen?
Yeah, I think. Let me check.
I think people can annotate, like I could annotate in the past.
So
Okay.
I think you guys can annotate. So I'll be drawing like a vector, and you guys can draw the unit vector. So so this is what I mean. So for example, if I have a to have like a vector like this, I want you guys to get the y direction vector and the x direction vector. So to draw like a so for example, have like, how do I say this? Like draw the perpendicular like vector units inside of a vector. So yeah, go ahead and like draw on the screen if you can. So yeah, so I just like redraw it. So here is a vector, and here is a vector, and then here is the x, y, and x axis. So go ahead and draw the direction this way and draw the direction this way. I'll just leave it. Draw a new one so that's. That's any ideas to draw. Are you guys allowed to like draw my screen? Just asking.
Yeah, I think they could, but I think most of them is on the phone, so I'm not sure how they will do it.
Okay, so I guess yeah, I just like do this one. So this one's blue, this one's red, and this one is. Okay, that's kind of embarrassing. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it for our presentation. Thank you all for watching. Hope you guys learned something. Sammy has any class notes?
Okay, do anyone else have any question regarding today's topic about scalar and vector?
No.
Yeah, feel free to, yeah, that's great. And if you have any question, you can stay on the Zoom and type your question in the chat, and our teacher will also stay in the Zoom to answer if you have any. If not, this is the end of today's class, and thank you everyone for joining today. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and you are feel free to leave. Bye everyone.
Bye. Have a good day.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good day.
Bye.
All right, nice. Can you stop?